You're looking for a hydration product. What are the things that you're looking for?
If I'm ever looking for a hydration product, the number one thing I'm looking for is that it tastes good. Like, water has no taste at all. Water's what, like, nature turns to rehydrate, and that's a little bit boring. And then you come down, are you gonna go with sugar? Are you gonna go with sugar-free? And all of this is just conversations point. Does this taste better than the other product? That's it. Jocko Hydrate is delicious. It's got electrolytes. That's between you guys. I don't know what electrolyte is. Frankly, I don't even need one. You could give me more electrolytes than the opponent, I'll beat the opponent. You could give me less than the opponent, I'll still beat the opponent. I can't even spell electrolyte. This has them, whatever that is. And it tastes good, which is really what matters.
I had a couple of days to process this and look back, but I'm talking about Conor McGregor pulling out. And I have no problem with it. I was really upset about it for a couple of days. I must tell you, I was. I was upset because I was disappointed. I was disappointed because, can we ever have a hero tell the truth? You guys remember the Olympics where we as a world, particularly in North America as a country, but as a world, we supported Michael Phelps. 23 gold medals. I want to say he did like 19 or 20 of them at that one Olympics. It was insane. It would put him as one of the great athletes ever. Many people said the greatest athlete ever, but those are the same people that do the Michael Jordan and LeBron comparison, but then make it about resumes. Well, this many rings versus this many rings, and therefore it proves. It's one of those things. And it's not as though those people don't have an argument, by the way. It's just not a sophisticated way of thinking or a sophisticated way of arguing. Do I lose credit for being sophisticated when I can't even pronounce the word? I do, don't I? Yeah, you want to come tell the audience that? Yeah, I can't come over here and I can't come and tell the audience what sophistication is when I can't pronounce it myself, correct? All right. Well, then I will step down from my big lofty perch, my high-handed approach to this, and I will just come back to tell you.
Did you even take English class?
It was so disappointing. That's my son, Thero, ladies and gentlemen. The cheap seats, he just yelled out, "Did you even take English class?" It was so disappointing after we did that for Phelps, and then he got caught smoking dope on tape. And, if you're a pothead, I wish the potheads wouldn't have won, but they did. And I can acknowledge that. So, if you're a pothead and you're a proud pothead, you're a Joe Rogan type, then just be that. But Phelps wasn't. He went and hired a PR team and he put out a statement. And it was just one of these moves where you go, man, can anybody ever come as advertised? Like, Michael, is there any reason you and your crooked teeth couldn't go up and shut a door somewhere and smoke dope? Is there any reason your dumbass had to do it in front of a bunch of people with cameras? And I only bring that to you is that's how I felt when Conor pulled out. That's one thing that he has never done. The show must go on. The show always goes on. And then let's say you know why he pulled out. Let's say that you're me. Do you tell the people why he pulled out? I mean, we're all having to do it right now. Like, I wasn't sworn to secrecy on it. It wasn't a situation like that, but I do know what it was. And since he hasn't put it out, or Audie hasn't put it out, obviously they don't want it out. So then what do you do in that situation? Do you just let the world pretend that he's hurt? Because I don't need to do that, but it was the same thing with Phelps. When Phelps goes and he hires a PR team to address smoking dope, and it was like one of these weird dances. I don't know if you guys ever saw Brock Lesnar get asked, have you taken steroids? And Brock Lesnar's answer would be a strong and emphatic, I have never failed a steroid test. All right, but that wasn't the question. Question was, have you ever taken steroids? I have never failed a steroid test. And Michael Phelps did something like that. I mean, this is a long time ago, and he turned out to be quite, so I don't really follow him, but he didn't deny that he had marijuana, but he most certainly did not confess to having marijuana. It was one of those deals. And that's where you always, I'd never be talking about Brock and the steroid test, and I'd never be talking about Michael Phelps, who most of you are going, who the is that anyway? I wouldn't even remember it happened, except for the cover-up is worse than the crime. So when Conor has people coming out and saying that he's injured on his behalf, it's a tough spot, man. It's a very tough spot, because those people that are doing it that do not want to be doing that don't want to be doing that because they know sooner or later it is going to come out and that he wasn't injured at all, and then they lose credibility. Or you have Conor in a doctor's office, or what is staged to appear to be a doctor's office, that never says anything other than, hey, we're going to get this handled. And it's one of those things where you're creating an idea and an image. Brock created the idea without making sure he never lied about steroids. Or Phelps created an idea that there's other things that you could be smoking than marijuana and you don't know what was inside of that paper that just got rolled. Or Conor creating the idea that he's hurt. I think where he is an honorable place. I remember when St-Pierre got a little stressed about fighting. He finished all of his obligations. He did not want to be in there against Johnny Hendricks. That's one of the pieces of the story. Like what George was dealing with, George never tells these things. Georges St-Pierre has left so damn much credit on the table because he never takes it. George giving the 85-pound belt back after 8 days, he had the right to keep that for 365 days. Have all the posters and all the media for all the great sponsors in the world with a belt over each shoulder. He was the only one that had it. He gave it back after 8 days. He didn't hold anybody up. He didn't hold up anybody's dreams. He didn't pretend that he had an injury, an illness. I'm coming back. Just let me get ready. Soak in that sponsor. He just gave it back. Never got credit for that. Not how the story was told, as a matter of fact. He was dealing with something so big, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how big it was. It was big enough in his mind, and he's the one that's got to deal with it, that he had to stop his career to go and handle it. Well, he was dealing with that in his training camp, and he was dealing that when he headed to the cage, and he was dealing that when he had to dig deep to win those rounds to defeat Johnny Hendricks, and he did it anyway. See, George should have gotten credit for that. And there's many people that when they finally found out what it was, they said, hey, that's not that big of a deal. Well, you know what? That's really not for you to decide. Right? It's really not for you to decide. Conor dealing with something. And not an injury. I don't know why we pretend that it's an injury. It's something that people would be very sympathetic. People would understand. Something they suspect anyway. I mean, it's one of those things. And I get it. I get it. I don't know what it will look like in the future to rebook him. I don't know if you can rebook him in a main event. But if you did, can he draw the same gate? Can he draw an even bigger gate? There's things about Conor McGregor that don't make sense, that just work for Conor. Knowing that that bright and beautiful light is going to dim on Conor makes you obvious. Dims on everybody, right? Well, it should have dimmed here. There's no title, there's no personal grudge, there's no reason for him to be fighting Michael Chandler, there's no reason for him to be fighting at 170 pounds. There's no reason for him to be fighting 5 rounds coming off of this kind of an injury. He does them all, and he turns in a gate that replaces his own #1 gate. And he replaced it when this whole thing was said and done. They were going to come in somewhere around $27 to $28 million. So he was going to beat his own highest gate by 85%. I'm just telling you, like, we can't just count him out. We can't just look to the future and say it's not going to happen. He's handling this the way he wants to handle it. And somebody's got a hold of him and told him this would be best for business. But you're taking a guy who's never done anything that those experts have said would be good for business, and he's been right 100% of the time. And now he's following their script. And I feel as though if there's a mistake to be made, that's the first one. The very first statement where he did not own this and he put it on the UFC, after consultation with the UFC and my management team and an assortment of doctors, we have come to the conclusion, well, fair enough, that's what most guys would say. That's just not what Conor would say. Conor says he didn't have a boss. Conor doesn't wear a watch because nobody tells him where to be. Nobody tells him what time to be there. And now all of a sudden you can't make a simple decision that I'd rather kick this habit and go for a little bit and go in here and pretend there's a dog. I need the UFC and I need doctors and I need an assortment of teams to tell me that I'm not going to be ready to fight Michael Chandler. I'm just telling you, it's off brand. You're taking one of the great workers ever, one of the great men of understanding this game, and pulling the strings from afar, and for the first time ever, he's handed control of the shop, which is social media in today's world, to a PR team who at a minimum has not been with him from the beginning, at a minimum does not follow the things that he does, at a minimum does not understand that the statement that they made is so far off brand for Conor McGregor. Stevie Wonder could see that Conor didn't make it himself. But it doesn't change my position that I think he's doing the right thing. Enough. For now.